But we came here, and for the weekend we unpacked everything, we got our internet set up, and then we went and got cell phones for the area, and by Monday morning we were set to go. So now I'm knocking door to door, and while I'm knocking, I still never get loved door to door, and it became one of those things that was almost like medicine, but horrible medicine. Like, it was everything about me hated it. Everything about going and doing it did not feel good, and I kind of took that as, well, that's a reason I need to do this. I came to the mindset that if I just keep pushing, doing door to door, and I can do this, then what the hell can I not do? Later on. If I can do this, then it's got to make other things feel so much easier, whatever comes up. And so I did it just for the personal growth of what it was going to do. And I had a ton of challenges along the way, people not getting it, or people that you're supposed to get a deal at least a day if you don't want to go crazy. When I first came out and was knocking with a partner, we got a deal at least every day. Sometimes I got 2 deals, sometimes 3, but usually at least 1. And I went a time period where, more than once, where I went several days with getting zilch, zero, nada, and it messed with me emotionally. And especially when it's all 100% commission and nothing's coming in. And so that was a pretty crazy time too, and I had some lessons that I learned there, like keep going no matter what, never quitting. When you're in that desperate state, instead of feeling anxious, it's better to get angry, get mad at something, and just freaking tear it up. Have courage, act anyway, whether you're confident or not, just freaking do it if you know it's the right thing. So a lot of good lessons there. And then I had some challenges where I made sales, I had money coming to my bank account, and then people would cancel. And when people cancel, even if I made $2,500 or $3,000 and they canceled, I owe that back. And if I have a few people cancel, I owe a big chunk back. And it got to the point, there was one point where I owed back 15 grand at one point. And I had to manage my emotions and just continue to just keep grinding and knocking and hoping I get enough deals in to cover that. So that's enough with the solar thing, or with my door-to-door stuff. By the way, I'm still doing it right now. It's still my day gig. I go out and I sell door-to-door in the afternoons. But what I want to kind of transition to is more of my entrepreneurial stuff that I have going on to help you out and just to document it. During the time that I was out here in Southern California, my ears were up and I was looking for entrepreneurial things to do. The same month that I quit my job, I also signed up for something online called Lewis Howes School of Greatness Academy. And it was this course, I think it was $500. It was all the money I had set aside for business. I had a good habit that I'm so appreciative that I had. I saved 5 to 10% of my paycheck into this thing called Pay Myself First. Something I got from one of the books I read. I think it was from The Richest Man in Babylon. But I had about $500, and I was like, man, do I spend this? Because I'm about to I just quit my job, and I don't know what the future holds. But I decided to, because the application doors were closing. So I joined the School of Greatness Academy to learn how to build a business online and to be around people that were trying to do the same thing as me. Now that was an added benefit, the being with people. I didn't realize how valuable that was going to be, but that was awesome. So I got into being masterminding with people from School of Greatness Academy. But when I was here in Southern California, I was always looking around for events or something to do to learn more or to be around other people. And I found this event where Lewis Howes was going to be a speaker. And that was awesome because I was part of his course, and now that I'm here in California, I'm like, why not? It was up in LA. It was going to be a couple-hour drive for me, but I was like, hey, I'm going to do it. So I drove up there and met Lewis Howes there in person, but I also connected with just a number of different people and just started to get the feel of different people that are in these entrepreneurial circles. And I found myself just wanting to be a part of more of this entrepreneurial community that I didn't even know was out there. So I went to that event. It was Internet Profits Live in LA. And then a little bit time later, I ended up at another event. That's an interesting story how I got there. I went to an event in June called Ignite Your Movement. And how I found it, it was the guy is the host named Nick Unsworth. I had no freaking idea who Nick Unsworth was at the time. But I know who Gary Vaynerchuk is, and you might know who Gary Vaynerchuk is. He's huge if you're in social media. He's written several books. And so I was watching YouTube videos one morning because I was always trying to learn and find some edge to get my business started. And while I was watching a Gary Vee video, I come across this video of Gary Vaynerchuk getting interviewed for over an hour by this guy named Nick Unsworth. And I was like, holy cow. I got a lot of content from the interview, but I was like, this guy's pretty young. I mean, he's probably 30 or something like that, which isn't crazy. And he got to go to VaynerMedia in New York, and Gary Vee's time is precious, and he was able to interview him for over an hour. He's doing something. He's in this entrepreneurial community, this niche somehow. You know what? I'm going to search to see if he has any events coming up. So I had just gone to this event in LA, and so I searched Southern California Nick Unsworth events and found that he had this Ignite Your Movement event. The only downside was it happened to be on a weekend that I was traveling back to Utah for my dad's birthday, so I did not sign up for the event. Okay? But long story short, I told you I did go to the event, right? So this is how I ended up going there. One of the guys who was in School of Greatness Academy saw a video that I posted in School of Greatness Academy about how to sell better. I happened to shoot that video outside my apartment here. Outside the apartment here happens to be the exact location where this other guy lived named Ryan, who is also a member of School of Greatness Academy. And so he watches this video and he messaged me back and is like, dude, that's outside my apartment. You're living right where I am? That's cool. We should hook up. I was like, what? No way. So me and Ryan end up connecting, totally chance. But he ends up, during one of our conversations, he asked me if I was going to go to this event in San Diego. And I said, well, I thought of it, but I'm leaving that weekend to go to my dad's birthday. And he's like, and he told me this, well, actually, it's not the whole weekend. The dates are something like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So it's not like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So if you wanted to go for at least a day, you could. And I was like, frick, you know what? I could. It's not the whole weekend. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go at least Thursday. It's one day. I was going to be leaving on Friday. And I decided, well, I'll go Thursday. If I like it, then I'll just plan on leaving to Salt Lake City late Friday evening after the event, and I'll miss the last day. No big deal. So I go to day one on Thursday because of the suggestion from Ryan. Both of us go, and we have a freaking blast. I'm sitting there on the front row taking notes like crazy from this guy Nick Unsworth. And during this event, but even before lunchtime, I was like, I want to freaking hire that dude. I want him to be my business coach, because that's what he does. He's a business coach. And I says, I want to hire him. So I went in the back, and I started talking to his right-hand lady, Donna, and said, dude, his story resonates with me like crazy, because he had a ton of failure, beating his head against the wall, but wanted to be a millionaire. Freaking tattooed that he was going to sell his business on his chest because he got into the secret, and it said to manifest it and to get serious about it. He was so serious he freaking tattooed it on his chest that he was going to do it. And he ended up selling his business by the time he was 30. So I was like, that's freaking what I want to do. So I went to Donna and said, I want to hire this guy. What's the process? And she's like, just stick around till tomorrow. He's actually going to tell us more about it. So I was like, okay, cool. That gave me a reason to come back the next day. So the next day, I actually ended up doing a little bit more of a little bit of networking outside of the main room. I watched part of the morning session. Then I went with somebody to lunch, and we ended up going to lunch for 2 to 3 hours. And I now had to leave because it was time for me to start heading to Salt Lake City. So I go back into the room. Nick has already done his coaching offer pitch. I didn't know what it was going to cost, but there was a lesson that I learned from day one, and it was just hitting home for me at the time. And it was like, if it's what you want to do, do it. Just decide. And instead of worrying about decisions, or if you made the right decisions, don't worry about if you made right decisions. Just decide and then make the decision right. Okay, that was a new way of thinking for me. After I did something, I always worried and had anxiety if I made the right decision. But it made so much more sense to me to realize what successful people do is they make the decision to the best of their ability, then they just back it up with something like action. If you're always worrying about if you made the right decision or not, then you actually, it makes this self-fulfilling prophecy of a horrible decision, and then you think it was just a horrible decision, but it could have just been your bad actions. Like, if we commit to marrying somebody, for example, but we're not sure on that decision, then we're going to be looking at other people, we're not going to get closer with our significant other, it's going to fall apart, and then we'll be like, yeah, maybe I didn't make the right decision. But once you decide, if you just make it right, meaning you go all in, you give that person all of your attention, then good things come from it, right? So, I had this going on in my mind, and I had already decided I needed to get a coach. And I was like, if I'm serious, if I really want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30, which I only had at the time 2.5 years, then I've got to make this investment whatever it is. Even though I hate debt, I hate credit cards, I've got to decide. So I walk in and I go to Donna and say, I want to do this, what do I need to do? And I luckily had a business credit card. And at the time it was like a $500 deposit, and then when everything's said and done, it was going to be about 20 grand. And I was going to pay $1,500 a month on my credit card. And the kind of my aim at the time was this guy was going to help me get a business going large enough that I'm making $1,500 a month that will cover the costs. And my credit card had a max of 10 grand. And then I would freaking just have my business big enough to pay it. So I signed up right there. I did it and just said, I'm just gonna freaking do it. I signed up and then I left to Utah for the weekend.